Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1 for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Mariam Gunamijaya. First is a look at your headlines for tonight. 34 parties and alliances signed the Puluang Sri Lanka agreement to back Ranil for president.
මේ සම්මුතියට කවුද සහභාගී වෙන්න අත්සන් කරන්නේ බෑ කියලා පැනලා යන්න නැතුව පුළුවන් කියලා හිතමු මිනිස්සු.
Ali Zahir Maulana from Rao Hakim's SLMC to back Ranil. Sajid kicks off election campaign from the Kandy district. First rally held in Kurunegala.
සුවහසක් ජනතාවට මම පොරොන්දු වෙනවා කිසිම දවසක මොනම හේතුවකටවත් හොරු එක්ක ඩීල් නැත හොරු එක්ක සම්බන්ධකම් නැත හොරුන්ගේ රැකවලත් එක්ක ගනුදෙනු නැත.
Anura Kumara calls on Chief Prelates, outlines NPP's future plans. Namal in Anuradhapura. Maithripala yet to decide on candidate he will back. Did not request for Maithripala's support. A statement from the SJB.
Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
The signing of the Puluang Sri Lanka agreement expressing support for independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe in the upcoming presidential election was held today. Kumara Welgamer and AHM Fauzi, both elected to parliament from the Samagi Janabala Vegya, also signed the agreement pledging support for Ranil Wickremesinghe. The signing of the Puluang Sri Lanka agreement was held under the auspices of independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe. A Pirit chanting ceremony was also held. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, representing the Mahajana Eksat Peramuna, and Ministers Ramesh Patirana, Prasanna Ranatunga and Ali Sabri, representing the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, signed the agreement. Ministers Nimal Siripala de Silva and Mahinda Maravira signed the agreement on behalf of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Minister Dr. Susil Premajayantha signed on behalf of the New Alliance, Douglas Devananda signed for the Ilam People's Democratic Party, and Anura Priyadarshana Yapa represented the Podujana Eksat Peramuna. Kumara Welgamer signed for the New Lanka Freedom Party, while Rajitha Senaratne and AHM Fauzi signed for the Samagi Janabala Vegya. ALM Mathaula signed for the National Congress and Sivanesan Sandrakanthan, alias Pillayan, signed for the Tamil Makkal Vidudalai Puligal. Azad Sali signed on behalf of the National Unity Front. In total, 34 parties and alliances signed the Puluang Sri Lanka agreement, expressing their support for independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe in the upcoming presidential election.
With 50 years of political experience, I declare that there is no competitor to you in the presidential election. Let us strive towards that supreme goal of leading to growth.
Who are
the people signing this convention? They are those who said they can do it, rather than backing out. Other candidates may advise you to think about yourself and vote. I urge you to think about your future and vote. Currently, we have reserves of $84 billion. We engage in negotiations with 18 countries and 21 institutions, including the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, to establish economic stability in this country. To continue along this path, we must adhere to the agreements in place. Any amendments would require renegotiating with these 21 countries and institutions constitutions, a process that took us 2 years to complete and would take another 2 years to revise. Are we going to lose our funds? We can Sri Lanka. Join us on this journey.
පුළුවන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා. පුළුවන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා. අපි එක්ක එන්න. අපි එක්ක ගමන් කරන්න.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Muslim Congress Member of Parliament Ali Zahir Maulana has joined forces with President Ranil Wickremesinghe today. Ali Zahir Maulana, who is the deputy leader of the Muslim Congress, was appointed to the parliament following the court verdict upholding the expulsion of Nazir Ahmed's parliamentary seat. However, leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Rauf Hakim, has pledged his support for Sajith Premadasa, inking an agreement with the Samagi Jana Sandhanaya. 3 other members of the Samagi Jana Balawegya affiliated with the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress are yet to declare their stance. These members are A.H.M. Haris, Faisal Kazim and M.H. Tawfiq.
A public rally was held at the Satyavadi grounds in Kurunegala this evening for the presidential election campaign of Samagi Jana Balawegya candidate Sajith Premadasa.
Party supporters of the Samagi Jana Balawegya kicked off the rally from Kurunegala. The rally was held under the theme Samat Jayak Samagi Ratak, which translates to Victory for All in a United Nation. Presidential candidate of the SJB, Sajith Premadasa, received a warm reception.
Sri Lanka Vamadirian Sarasen Magerata Balagan at a Sarasen Divunu Ayalikandan at a Sarasen Samagia Balagan Vanity Sarasen Sri Lanka Vamadirian Sarasen Sarasen
සුවහසක් ජනතාවට මම පොරොන්දු වෙනවා කිසිම දවසක මොනම හේතුවකටවත් හොරු එක්ක ඩීල් නැත හොරු එක්ක සම්බන්ධකම් නැත හොරුන්ගේ රකවලත් එක්ක
I promise all people of this country, we will never carry out deals with thieves for any reason. We will have no connections with thieves or their protectors. Mark my words, we will put a stop to this tyrannical, infamous, rotten political culture of selling positions for money, grants and privileges. We see many crossovers, but I have to say none of the MPs who came to our side have asked for any positions. They did not ask for ministerial position, grants or privileges. They all joined us respecting principles. I remind you that on the 21st of September, the president, who will be elected by the 17 million voters representing 22 million people of this country, will be the president of the common people.
ලක්ෂ 170ක් පමණ වූ ඡන්දදායකින් තෝරගන්නේ මේ රටේ මෑත කාලේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට පොදු ජනාධිපති රටේ පොදු ජනයාගේ ජනාධිපති කියන එක
Representatives of the Samagi Jana Balawegya and their allied parties also expressed their views.
Be it the farmer, labourer or fisherman, we will create a president of the common people with President Premadasa on the 21st of September. We definitely will win. We call him president because we believe that he is already the president.
මගේ ප්‍රධානම කාරණාව පහුගිය කාලේ තමුන්නාන්සලාට මතක ඇති මේ රටේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවට කරපු විනාශය. මේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවට කරපු විනාශය දිහා බලන්න.
My main concern is the destruction done to Sri Lankan cricket. We wanted to take Sri Lankan cricket in the right path, but the former president, current president and the people around them didn't let us do that. That's when opposition leader Sajith Premadasa brought a bill to parliament to protect the game.
රටේ ඉන්න හොරුන් ආරක්ෂා කරන කල්ලියක් අපිට වැඩේ කරන්න දුන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ අතරේ තමයි විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා හැටියට සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට පනතක් ගෙනල්ලා මේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාව ආරක්ෂා කරන එකට මූලිකත්වය වුණේ.
තව දවස් 40ක් නෑ
Not even 40 days more. Mark my words that Sajith Premadasa will become the president of the common people. 39 candidates have submitted nominations, but not all 39 are candidates. There's only one candidate and 3 competitors. Therefore, Sajith Premadasa is the only people's candidate.
Sajith Premadasa පමණයි කියලා මම කියන්න ඕන. මේ මැතිවරණය ගත්තෙත් බොහොම අමාරුවෙන් මහජන ආයතන තුනයි මේ රටේ තියෙන්නේ. ප්‍රාදේශ සභා, පළාත් සභා, පාර්ලිමේන්තුව. මේ තුනෙන් දෙකක් වහලා
Even ensuring this election would be held was very difficult. There are only 3 public institutions in this country: municipal councils, local government and the parliament. They tried to shut down 2/3 of them as well as the presidency. They went to court and did a lot of underhand work. But in the end, the rule of law prevailed. The people stood up. Even though it is not originally what we wanted, we had to make the decision to enter the presidential election. There can't be any doubts about the presidential election after yesterday. Vote wisely on the 21st to make this a respectful nation.
පිළිබඳව එනිසා මිතුරුනි මේ රට ගරු සරු රටක් බවට පත් කරන්න ගරු සරු රටක් බවට පත් කරගන්න අපි 21 වෙනිදා තෝරගන්නට උනා. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා ඊයේ
Ranil Wickremesinghe claimed yesterday after submitting his nomination that he is angry with those who bankrupted this country. Right after that, Mahinda Anandaluthgamage came and hugged him. If he is angry, how can he bring himself to be around them?
මතක තියාගන්න අපට වැරද්දපු තැනේ මේ ප්‍රධාන ධාරාවන් දෙකම ඉන්නවා. දූෂිත දේශපාලනය ethanol වලින්
Keep in mind that both of these groups are responsible for what went wrong in our country. Corrupt politicians came to power through ethanol, drugs and ice. Also, it is the politics that led our children in the past through riots, revolutions of blood, destroyed the country's national property and took this country backward through strikes. You have got a unique opportunity to defeat both those parties on the 21st. We have no doubt that this alliance of Sajith Premadasa will definitely win.
ලබන 21 වෙනිදාට පරාජය කරන්න ඔබට අද්විතීය අවස්ථාවක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ තමයි සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසගේ මේ සන්ධානයේ දිනවීම කියන එක අපි ඔබට කියනවා.
The leader of the National People's Power, Anurukumara Dissanayake, visited the chief prelates and obtained their blessings for his campaign.
Anurukumara Dissanayake met with Venerable Sri Sumangala Thera, the chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect at the Malwatu Mahavihare today.
ඡන්දේ තියෙනවද නැද්ද කියන සැකේ ඉවරයි. කාලයක් තිබ්බනේ එහෙම සැකය 40ක් හිටියනේ. එක්කෙනෙක් අප බැන්දට නාම යෝජනා දීලා තිබුණා. 39ක් තමයි දුන්නේ. දැන් මම දන්නවා සමහර පක්ෂවල නියෝජිත 10ක් 12ක් විතර හිටියා ඇතුළේ. අරනම් ඉන්න පුළුවන් නේ අපේක්ෂකයා දෙන්නෙකුට විතරයි. ඒකෙන් තේරෙනවා අර අපේක්ෂකව දාලා තියෙන ඒගොල්ලෝමයි. ඒක ඇතුළට යන්න අන්න ඒ වගේ වට දාලා තියෙන. ඒ නිසා රටේ මුදල් නාස්ති වෙන වැඩක් විතරයි ඒක. දැන් ඒගොල්ලෝ එකක් ඉතින් අවලාද ගන්න එක තමයි. ඒක අසුබල විහිපත් කර නමුත් ඒවා නියම කරගෙන ඇවිල්ලා අපිට ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී ක්‍රමයකට මෙතුණුගේ මේ චන්ද්‍රිකා මෙතුණුගේ කාලේ මම හිතේ 40ක් විතර හිටියා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මන්ත්‍රීට වාසේ 2004 එතකොට ඔය කිසි චොක්කනමන්නේ දැන් තමයි මම හිතේ 50 70 වෙනකොට ඔබතුමන්ලා ඉපදිලා පොඩි මේ දැන් කරන්න තියෙන දේ ගැන දිවිට කරන්න රටට කරපු සේවය ඒවා කියන්නේ එහෙම තමයි ගොඩක් කරන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පක්ෂයේ කියන්නේ මේ පිළිදෙල කරුණාලා සභාපතිලා උපසභාපතිලා එතකොට මුකුත් නැහැ කතාව මම දැක්කා ඒගොල්ලෝ සමහර අය ලෑස්තිලා තියෙන ඔය පාරණ ඒවා මොනවද කර දැන්වීම අදලා පත්තර ගහන්න අපිට විරුද්ධව එතන එකම වෙලා තියෙන ඔය පාරණ කතාව කියන එක තමයි එකම දේශපාලනය.
Thereafter, Anurukumara Dissanayake visited the Anunayaka Thera of the Malwatu chapter, the Most Venerable Dimbul Kumbure Sri Vimala Dhamma Thera, and discussed the current political situation.
හොරකම දූෂණය වංචාව මේ දේවල් නැති කරගන්න ඕනේ.
උඩ දේශපාලන අධිකාරිය තමයි මේක පටන් ගන්න.
පටන් ගන්න. ඒක හරි.
ඒක හරි. එතනින් මේක වෙනස් වුනේ නැත්තම් පාල වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ.
බෑ.
අර නිකන් කක්කුට්ට ඇදේට යන ගමන් කියන්න බෑනේ. මේ වගේ අපේ ආම්දුරනේ අරකට නම් සාතිකයක් දෙන හොරකම නම් අතර කරා.
අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම කළ යුතුයි.
Thereafter, Anukumara Dissanayake visited the Askeri Mahaviharaya. He visited the Mahanayaka of the Askeri chapter of the Siam sect, the most venerable Varkagoda Sri Jnana Ratana Thera.
ඒක ඇත්තම අපරාධයක්. විනාශයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ මේ ගොඩක් පක්ෂ. ඒගොල්ලෝ වෙනුවෙන්ම අපේක්ෂා බෙදලා තියෙනවා. නම් දෙන්න අපරාධේ මහා ජාතික ධනයක් විනාශ කරනවා.
Anukumara Dissanayake expressed remarks to the media thereafter.
උන්වහන්සේලා පෙන්වා දීපු එක ඇත්ත. අපේ රට මේ විශාල ප්‍රමාණයකට කඩා වැටෙන්න මේ වංචා දූෂණ හේතු වෙලා තිබෙනවා. රට තුලත් අපේ නායක හාමුදුරන් වහන්සේලා කියු පරිදිම මේ වංචා දූෂණය නතර කළ යුතුයි කියන අදහසක් තිබෙනවා. අපිට මේක නතර කරන්න පුළුවන් එකම දේශපාලන බලවේගය ජාතික ජන බලවේගය විතරයි.
ඒ කියන්නේ මන්තුමායකට ප්‍රතිඥාවක් දෙනවද?
අනිවාර්යෙන්. පටන් ගන්න ඕන මුදුනි. ඒ නිසා ජාතික ජන බලවේගය ආණ්ඩුවක් ගන්නවා කියලා මුදුන අපේ අතේ තියෙනවා. අපි ඒක වෙනස් කරනවා. අපි ගාව වංචා දූෂණ කරපු බවට සහතිකයක් සහිත ලියවිලි තිබෙනවා. හැබැයි පරීක්ෂණ කරන්න ආණ්ඩුවක් අවශ්‍යයි. අන්නේ බලය තමයි අපි ඉල්ලන්න කියන්නේ.
The presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Anukumara Dissanayake, visited the Mirigama Vidyavasa Piriven Mahaviharaya in Mini Oluwa. He called on the chief prelate of the Ramanya sect, Most Venerable Makulave Vimala Thera, and obtained blessings. Anukumara Dissanayake obtained blessings from the Theras.
Sajid Premadasa, the presidential candidate of the Samagi Jana Balavegya, obtained blessings from the sacred tooth relic this morning before kicking off his election campaign after submitting his nomination papers.
The Mahasangha offered blessings to Sajid Premadasa by chanting Pirit.
මේ රටට අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ දැහැමි සංකල්ප වලින් පිරි රාජ්‍ය නායකත්වයක්. එහෙම වුණොත් තමයි සබහාදහම ආශිර්වාද කරන්නේ. එහෙම වුණොත් තමයි මිනිස්සු සතුටින් ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්මයා අපි දකිනවා එතුමා විපක්ෂ නායකත්වයේ ඉඳිමින් තමන්ට ශක්ති ප්‍රමාණින් හැකි පමණින් එදත් අදත් ජනතාව අතරට ගිහින් පාසල් වලට ගිහින් පන්සලට ගිහින් විය යුතු කළ යුතු යුතුයකම් ඉතා මනවින් ඉටු කරගෙන යනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒ ගමන් මඟ අපට පැහැදිලි කිසියම් ශක්තිමත් අත්‍යවාරමත් මත යන ගමනක් බව.
Sajid Premadasa also visited the Malwatu Mahaviharaya and obtained blessings from Venerable Sri Siddhartha Sumangala Thera, the chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect. Sajid Premadasa also presented a book detailing the people's issues he identifies as the opposition leader in the country.
Ramyojana Bardina, Samaswami, Poland Pradesh, Agam Vatavata Savako, Yima, Chanaka, Titama,
Sajid Premadasa then called on the Anunayaka of the Malwadu chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Dimbul Kumbure Sri Vimala Dhamma Thera. At the Askeri Mahaviharaya, he called on the chief prelate of the Askeri chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Varkagoda Sri Jnana Ratana Thera.
The people of this country know very well that the president is not appointed by the MPs. It is the 22 million people of the country who have that right. I believe they are the ones who make the decisions. I want to make it clear that our government will not usher in an era of alcohol. We are putting a stop to political gambling and the culture of political corruption that arises from issuing various licenses. Specifically, we are taking the necessary steps to reform the economy. I have said many times that we will negotiate with the IMF to ease the conditions that have imposed an excessive burden on the people. I'm now talking about both the current and the previous terms. We are committed to serving the people with a government that is people-centered, humble and committed to excellence. Our goal is to alleviate suffering, wipe away the tears of the people and serve all 22 million people regardless of caste, religion or party affiliation. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa attended multiple events today.
Many Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna members gathered to welcome presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa in Dambulla this afternoon.
ඊළඟ පරම්පරාවේ දේශපාලන බලවේගය අපි අනාගත පරම්පරාවේ තරුණයන්ගේ අප්‍රමාදතාවයන් ඉෂ්ට කරන දේශපාලන පක්ෂයක්. මේ මැතිවරණයේ ජයග්‍රහණයෙන් පස්සේ මේ රටේ තරුණයන්ගේ විරකියා ප්‍රශ්නෙට ඊට සංවර්ධනය කරන තාක්ෂණික විප්ලවයක් ගේන්න අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. ජය වේවා. සර් ජය වේවා. අපි කුෂිකර්මාන්තේ තාක්ෂණයත් එක්ක බද්ධ කරනවා. බද්ධ කරලා මේ රටේ තරුණයාගේ කුෂිකර්මාන්තේ කරන තරුණයාගේ ආදායම උත්පාදනය වැඩි වෙනවා කටයුතු කරනවා.
Prior to starting his election campaign, presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa worshipped the Jayashri Mahabodhi and Ruwanwali Mahasaya in Anuradhapura today. The Mahasangha bestowed their blessings on Namal Rajapaksa.
Some may
wonder whether Namal Rajapaksa and Mahinda Rajapaksa brought this crowd. That is not the case. We saw Mahinda Rajapaksa every time he came. We never saw King Dutugamunu, but we worshipped his statue. Today our King Dutugamunu has come to Anuradhapura. If we are to name people, Shehan Semasinghe, S.M. Chandrasena and his brothers' political careers were built around Mahinda Rajapaksa. We do not say that these especially for the people of Anuradhapura. We have heard that when Shehan Semasinghe, S.M. Chandrasena and others get on platforms, they say that they represent the SLPP. These villagers felt the horrors of the war. Mahinda Rajapaksa is the leader that healed those wounds. These people themselves said that the leaders that gave water and electricity to the village developed the country. No matter what they said, the people are smart. No matter how many politicians change sides, the people of this country stand by the Rajapaksas.
බිමියේ ජනතාව තවමත් රාජපක්ෂ සහ රාජපක්ෂ කඳවුර වෙනුවෙන් ඉන්න
Venerable Bathramule Sirasa, the presidential candidate for the Janasatha Peramuna, expressed these views at an event held in Homagama today.
ජනාධිපති මැතිවරණයට 38 දෙනෙක් තරඟ කරනවා. මේ 38 දෙනාගේ විශාල කොටසක්
38 candidates are contesting the presidential election. Many of these candidates seems to be pursuing positions for personal gain, such as sand permits, chairmanships or directorships. This is what some call contesting. On the other hand, there are political parties that are genuinely competing to gain power in order to work for the people. One such party is Janasatha Peramuna. In reality, we are striving to create a system that can provide relief to the people. We are focused on doing something meaningful for our country and contributing to the betterment of our generation. We are always mindful of the suffering of the people.
හැම වෙලාවම ජනතාවගේ දුක හඳුනා ගන්නවා. අපි හැම වෙලාවම ගමක් පාසා ගිහිල්ලා ඒ අයට සහයෝගය දෙනවා.
Justice Shobhita Rajakaruna has been appointed as acting president of the Court of Appeal by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The swearing-in ceremony took place this morning at the President's office. Justice Rajakaruna steps into this role as Justice Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne. The current president of the Court of Appeal is overseas. Justice Rajakaruna will serve as acting president until Justice Karunaratne's return. Moving along. The ex-South Lanka Podujana Party's presidential candidate Janaka Ratnayaka also convened a media briefing today. This was to clarify details about a bribery complaint that led to the arrest of the secretary and chairman of the party he is contesting from.
Before the bonds were deposited, the chairman and secretary of the ex-South Lanka Podujana Party were arrested on Wednesday by the Commission to investigate allegations on bribery or corruption at the party office. It was reported that they were arrested on soliciting a bribe of 30 million rupees to offer membership of the ex-South Lanka Podujana Party to presidential candidate Janaka Ratnayaka. After the group was produced before court yesterday, the secretary and chairman of the ex-South Lanka Podujana Party were remanded until the 27th of August, while the remaining members were released on bail.
මම පහුගිය මාස 3-6 ඇතුළත එක පක්ෂයක් නෙමෙයි පක්ෂ 10ක් විතර වගේ පක්ෂ 10කින් පමණ සාකච්ඡා කරා මම කොහොමද අපේක්ෂකත්වය ගන්න කියලා. ඒ අනුව මට කියන්න ලැජ්ජයි මේ පක්ෂ 10න් පක්ෂ 5ක් පමණ. සමහර පක්ෂ
In the last 3 to 6 months, I discussed my candidacy with not just one party, but with about 10 parties. Unfortunately, I have to admit that among these 10 parties, some include individuals who have been in parliament for 25 to 30 years. When asking for the party's candidacy, I was told, give me 40 million or even give me 50 million. I won't mention names as it would be unfair to those individuals who are contesting for president. The parties you remember when you say culture and heritage, they demand as much as 50 million. The parties which trade unions demand 60 million. Some ask for 70 million. This blatant corruption in politics needs to be exposed. When applying for the party candidacy, bribes of 30 million are being solicited. Documents are only given if the bribe is paid. This is a lack of concern for the people and a focus on making money. If the government engages in such practices, its ministers will be held accountable. This is a call to stop these injustices and put a red light on all such parties. This punishment aims to discipline these individuals and prevent such practices.
ක්ෂ දින කට්ටියට කිසිම දැකීමක් නැහැ මිනිසුන් ගැන. මේකට තියෙන්නේ මුදල් ලිපීමේ පරමාර්ථය තමයි. ආණ්ඩුව කරනවා නම් ආණ්ඩුවේ මැතිමතිවරු පගා ගහනවා. අනිත් දේශපාලන පක්ෂ මේ වගේ අවස්ථාවක් ආපුවම මඩි තර කරගෙන හදනවා. මේක තමයි මේක මේ අසාධාරණ නැවැත්වීමට ඒ වගේම මේ සියලුම පක්ෂවලට රතු එළියක් දෙන්න. ඒ වගේම මේ කට්ටිය ඩිසිප්ලින් කරන්න. මේ වගේ වැඩ ඉදිරියේදී නවත්ත ගන්න තමයි මේ පනිෂ්මන්ට් එක දුන්නේ.
The People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, or PAFLO, said that some candidates have submitted their nominations for petty reasons. PAFLO said that immediate action must be taken to remedy this situation.
අපේක්ෂකත්වයේ ලැබපු අය සැබෑ ලෙස තරග කරනවා නම්
If they are truly willing to contest, they must act in a way that is deemed appropriate for a presidential candidate. A majority are contesting for personal benefits. There is a possibility of the quality and equality of this election being challenged due to their candidacy and support for other candidates. We proposed to the Election Commission that all of the 39 candidates should be investigated and a decision should be taken regarding the candidates who continue to appear as proxy candidates in the upcoming election. Making a decisions regarding those parties are of paramount importance. There is a responsibility on every candidate. They should prepare 2 reports of their income and expenditure. The income and expenditure report should be given to the Election Commission within 21 days. If you don't provide them, you will be guilty even if you are a candidate who has lost the election. In such a case, they will lose their voting rights along with their right to contest and be liable for a 300,000 rupee fine. Therefore, every candidate must pay close attention to this new law that is being implemented for the first time.
හැම අපේක්ෂකයෙක්ම මේ පළවෙනි වතාවට ක්‍රියාත්මක වන නීතිය පිළිබඳව දැඩි අවධානයකින් ඉන්නට අවශ්‍යයි.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena has said that he has not yet decided to endorse any candidate in the presidential election. He confirmed this in a statement issued. Former President Maithripala Sirisena has refuted claims made by certain media outlets and politicians, both from the government and the opposition, asserting that these claims about him are unfounded. According to his statement, the dispute within the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is currently under judicial review. Former President said that the court has not yet delivered a verdict on who holds the position of SLFP chairman. He emphasized that any appointments or decisions made by other individuals are without legitimacy, as the chairman retains full authority according to the constitution of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Meanwhile, the SJB has stressed that there is no necessity to form an alliance with former President Maithripala Sirisena or seek his support. In a statement signed by the party spokesperson S.M. Marika, it has revealed that the pro-government propaganda groups are involved in fabricating and disseminating false information through both traditional and social media. The SJB has urged the public to be vigilant about the media campaigns targeting Sajith Premadasa. Who will the Ilangai Tamilarasa Kachi support? Member of Parliament M.A. Sumandiran expressed views on the matter in Kilinochchi today.
The Ilangai Tamilarasa Kachi will announce our guidance to our voters at the right moment. If anyone looks back at the recent history, at the last 3 presidential elections, it's only at the last moment that we declared as to who we were going to support. This election is no different. The reason for that is that we will have to look at what each candidate, main candidates at least, say with regard to certain of our concerns in their own manifestos. When they say it in their manifestos, that's a declaration to the whole country as to their intention. And after those come out, we will consider all of that and in due time declare to our people certain guidance as to how they should vote.
The power of the people.
රටට බත සපයන රජරට තමුත්තේකම කුඩා වෙල්ලන් කඩවල ග්‍රාමී ජනතාව පිරිසිදු පානීය ජලය නොමැතිව බොහෝසී දුක් පිඳි කාලය නිමා කරමින් ගම්මැද්දෙන් පානීය ජල පෙරණයක් ලබා දුන් වගයි. රට නගන ජන පෞර.
In your weather update, the Met Department has issued an amber advisory for heavy rain for the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Galle, Matra, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Now, the Met Department says that prevailing showery condition over the southwestern parts of the island is expected to enhance due to the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka today and tomorrow. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the western and the Sabaragamu provinces and in the Galle, Matra, Kandy and Nuwara districts. The Met Department requests the public to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organization has issued landslide warnings for several divisional secretariats in the Galle, Kalutara and Matra districts. We now cross over to a short commercial break. Stay with us. We will be right back.
රටක් ලෙස අප හමුවේ ඇති සිහින අනාගතයට අප රැගෙන යන බලාපොරොත්තුවයි. සැපවත් නගරවල මෙන්ම දුප්පත් ගම්මානවල පොදු සිහිනය. යහපත් හෙට දවසක්. ඒ සිහිනය ජයගන්නට එක්ව නැගිටිමු. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර.
Welcome back to the news. State Minister of Foreign Affairs Taraka Balasuriya said the Sri Lankan government has intensified its efforts to rescue 34 students still held captive in Myanmar following the successful repatriation of 20 others. The media briefing was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Our main concern is not the release of the 20 students. They will be brought back to Sri Lanka, but there's 34 students who are still remaining in Myanmar. So our next job would be to ensure that there will be a early release of the other 34 students. And we also would like to point out this problem does not end over here. And in order for us to have a concrete stop to this problem, we have to stop the students being deceived and going to places like Myanmar on employment. So we understand that recently also 5 students have through Dubai they have gone to Myanmar. So our efforts will be in vain if more students keep going to Myanmar in hope of employment. So what we would like to address in this juncture is to advise all people who are looking for foreign employment to please go through the proper channels, please check where you are going to go and don't get caught to these dubious and nefarious foreign agents who are trying to take advantage of the innocent Sri Lankans.
State Minister, in your perspective, what efforts are being taken to rescue the remaining Sri Lankans held against their will in Myanmar?
We are looking at all channels. Now, I'm sure you must have followed that there were some Indian students who were rescued and there were some Moroccans who were rescued. They were rescued in a different way. They were rescued through a third-party channel and there have been certain payments which have been made. So we are looking at all options which are available to us. We have not made any payments to the release of these the 20 students. We will also be appointing a defence attaché to to Bangkok mission, and the defence attaché will also look after Myanmar, and we will also be connecting. We would also be connecting with other third parties in order to see what possibilities are there in order for the release of the remaining 34 students. But from the Foreign Ministry's perspective, we will be my ambassadors in both Myanmar and in Thailand will continue to have a dialogue with the relevant officers from those countries, and also from the Tak province, which is the province adjacent to Myanmar. So I think if we continuously put some pressure, perhaps these countries would assist us in getting the release of the remaining 34 students also.
Minister, the smuggling is taking place via Thailand, right? So is the Foreign Ministry expecting to scrutinize travel to Thailand, like doing extensive checks on those going to Thailand?
Everybody has gone through Thailand. Most of them have gone through Thailand, but they also enter Thailand on visit visas. Okay, so I think there's no way the Thai government can find the intention of a Sri Lankan visiting Thailand, whether that person is there to visit Thailand for a holiday or that person's intention is to cross the border and then try and find employment in Myanmar. So it's a very intricate situation, and then we are working very closely with the Thai government and the Myanmar government in order to address this.
For nearly a year, Newsfirst has been highlighting the harrowing plight of over 50 Sri Lankan youth held captive by an armed group along the Myanmar-Thailand border. These individuals were lured to Myanmar with the promise of IT-related jobs, but were instead exploited for cybercrimes. They have been held in 3 different locations within the Miyawadi areas of Myanmar, where they endured severe torture and were forced to engage in criminal activities.
Secretary to the Treasury and Ministry of Finance, Mahinda Sirivardhana, dismissed the calls for renegotiating the International Monetary Fund program's targets asserting that the terms are non-negotiable.
There have been numerous recent statements by various groups regarding the renegotiation of the IMF-supported reform program. However, Sri Lanka's present IMF-supported extended fund facility program is very different to Sri Lanka's past programs, with the IMF given the fact that the restructuring of public debt is an integral component of this 17th program. The debt restructuring process envisaged in the program is required to provide debt relief such that the key debt-related targets as set out in Sri Lanka's debt sustainability analysis (DSA) can be met by 2022. The DSA is based on the IMF's market access countries sovereign risk and debt sustainability framework (MAC-SRDSF). The MAC-SRDSF is a model applied to emerging market countries in general and is based on a combination of historic trends, peer country comparisons, and interactions between different variables. For instance, the GDP growth projection would interact with the degree of fiscal consolidation, real interest path, and other variables. Therefore, the outputs of MAC-SRDSF model are a great extent mechanical in nature, with very little room for judgment and negotiation. Judgment-based adjustments are also subject to interdepartmental review at the IMF. And finally, the decisions of the IMF management and the executive board. One of the key inputs for the DSA is the primary budget balance target. Sri Lanka's program includes a primary budget surplus of 2.5% of GDP from 2025 till 2032. This forms a key input into the gross financing needs target in particular. The primary budget balance in turn determines the fiscal path in terms of how revenue must increase and expenditure must be managed to enable the 2.3% target to be met. The fiscal path in turn influences the interest rate trajectory, which influences the growth path. The macroeconomic baseline also includes an international reserve path, which influences the currency trajectory, which interacts with inflation. All of these contribute to determine the GDP growth path in the baseline. It is a failure to understand the dynamics of these macroeconomic interactions that has led many to believe that the IMF targets can be casually renegotiated and adjusted to meet various political or ideological ends. The bottom line is that expectations for renegotiations of Sri Lanka's DSA targets are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of the IMF program structures, particularly one including debt restructuring. The targets are non-negotiable, whilst there can be some flexibility in terms of how those targets are to be achieved. For example, earlier this week, the Honorable President announced some proposed amendments to the personal income tax structure. The Treasury began negotiating such an amendment with the IMF as far back as September 2023. It was not possible to implement such a proposal previously, given the fact that revenue was falling short of targets. However, with the improvement in revenue performance this year, it has become possible to negotiate an adjustment to the PIT structure, which provides some relief to the taxpayers in the middle bands, whilst ensuring there isn't an excessive gain for the highest income earners. The proposed adjustment to the PIT is estimated to cost around 0.08% of GDP, and compensating revenue measures have already been discussed with the IMF, such that revenue targets are not compromised. As has been stated previously by the government, whilst the ultimate program targets are largely non-negotiable, the policy mix which such targets are met has more flexibility. In this instance, the ultimate targets of tax revenue and the primary balance are not compromised, since the government has quantified the revenue impact and already discussed compensating revenue measures with the IMF. Sri Lanka has gone to the IMF 16 times before this 17th program, which began in 2022. In my view, the 17th program should be the last one, and we should use this as an opportunity to implement the critical reforms to put the country on a sustainable path. Let us recall Mr. Nigel Clarke's rationale for Jamaica's fiscal reforms. The 7% primary surplus target is merely an intermediate goal. It is a means to an end. The substantive goal is the achievement of a real economic independence. I unquote. So it is abundantly clear that it was our failure in the past to put our house in order that led to Sri Lanka's economic plight. Now, at least after this serious economic crisis, our duty and aim should be to implement required reforms following a focused and committed approach to strengthen our economic levers and buffers, so that we Sri Lankans can achieve our real economic independence and even enhance our economic independence going forward.
He expressed these views at an unveiling of the social protection policy prepared by the Department of National Planning in Colombo today.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that inflation will remain below the 5% target in near term.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that headline inflation is expected to remain well below the targeted level of 5% in the near term and gradually stabilize around the targeted level over the medium term. It added that following a temporary rise in early 2024, headline inflation declined notably thereafter due to reductions in energy prices, a slowdown in food inflation and subdued demand conditions. This was revealed in the Central Bank's second monetary policy report for 2024 released yesterday. According to the latest forecast, year-on-year headline inflation is anticipated to experience a deceleration in the next few months, possibly driving quarterly average inflation levels during the near term to be below the inflation target of 5% by more than 2 percentage points, as defined in the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement. Headline inflation is anticipated to record its lowest level in the projected horizon in early 2025, during which the statistical base effects, mainly due to the value-added tax increases in early 2024, are expected to drive inflation down amidst subdued momentum. Over the medium term, headline inflation is expected to eventually stabilize around the targeted level of 5% and remain around that level, supported by appropriate policy measures and the normalization of global oil and food inflation.
Achaya, Snovika, Mayuran, Sid Sabesan, Tivisa, Akash, காலிறுதி போட்டியில் களம் கண்ட இவர்களுடன் அரையிறுதி போட்டியில் தடம் பதிக்க காத்திருக்கும் அந்த மூவர் யார்? எதிர்பாருங்கள்.
Quarter-final live rounds August 17 at 8:30 p.m. Tune in to Shakti TV.
Day 53 of the third phase of the LOLC Divisavya program, which is being carried out for the betterment of Sri Lanka's future generation, got underway today.
Today's program was centered around the Mathura district. Under the Divisavya program, exercise books and stationery equipment required for a year are distributed free of charge to government schools with less than 150 students. Accordingly, school bags and stationery equipment were donated to students of Vepata Kunasekara Vidyalaya, Ransayagura South Junior School, Viharahena Junior School, Kandilpana Junior School and Mederipitiya Junior School. The LOLC Divisavya program continues to forge ahead for the future generation of Sri Lanka.
Thailand's parliament has picked Paetongtarn Shinawatra, the daughter of billionaire tycoon and former leader Thaksin, as Prime Minister. At 37, she will be the country's youngest Prime Minister and the second woman in the post after her aunt Yingluck. Thailand's parliament voted for the daughter of divisive tycoon Thaksin Shinawatra to become the country's next Prime Minister. Political newcomer Paetongtarn Shinawatra, aged 37, will become Thailand's second female Prime Minister and the third Shinawatra to hold the top post. Thailand's Constitutional Court on Wednesday dismissed Shreta Thavisin as Prime Minister in what was the latest blow for Pheu Thai, the populist juggernaut of the billionaire Shinawatra family that has locked horns for 2 decades with Thailand's influential establishment and royalist military. Shreta was the movement's 4th Prime Minister to be removed by a court ruling, and his downfall suggests a breakdown in an uneasy detente between Thaksin and his enemies in the conservative elite and the military old guard, which has enabled the tycoon's return from self-exile in 2023 and allowed Shreta to become the premier the same day. According to foreign media reports, the timing seemed to suggest a truce in the long-standing feud, as both sides sought to see off the threat posed by the newer Move Forward party, which won the popular vote in last year's election. It was later blocked from forming a government.
Cases of the more dangerous strain of mpox have been identified outside Africa for the first time. The news comes just hours after the World Health Organization declared that the outbreak of mpox was now a public health emergency of international concern.
Pakistan health officials announced their first case of the deadly mpox virus this year. A Ministry of Health statement said the affected person has come from a Gulf country, adding the strain was yet to be confirmed. The Pakistan patient is a 34-year-old man and is being treated in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Sweden's public health agency said yesterday that it had registered a case of the clade 1b subclade, the first to be diagnosed out of Africa. The affected person was infected during a stay in an area of Africa where there is a large outbreak of mpox clade 1. The WHO recorded more than 14,000 cases and 524 deaths so far this year in the Democratic Republic of Congo, already exceeding last year's total. Formerly called monkeypox, the virus was discovered in 1958 in Denmark in monkeys kept for research. It was first discovered in humans in 1970 in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. The infectious disease is caused by a virus transmitted to humans by animals but can also spread human to human through close physical contact.
In sports news, Sri Lanka Cricket said that cricketer Niroshan Dikwala has been suspended from participating in all forms of cricket due to an alleged anti-doping violation.
Issuing a media release, Sri Lanka Cricket said cricketer Niroshan Dikwala has been suspended from participating in all forms of cricket due to an alleged anti-doping violation. The suspension is effective immediately and will remain in place until further notice. The test, which was conducted by the Sri Lanka Anti-Doping Agency during the Lanka Premier League 2024, is part of SLC's ongoing commitment to maintaining the integrity of the sport.
Day 1 of the Sri Lanka Sports Fiesta 2024, powered by Dialogue Axiata PLC, kicked off at the Colombo Racecourse grounds today.
Nearly 3,000 athletes from Sri Lanka and around the world have joined Sri Lanka Sports Fiesta 2024, which features cricket, rugby, football, volleyball, netball and hockey. The opening ceremony was chaired by Secretary to the Sports Ministry K. Maheshan and Director General of Sports Professor Shima Fernando. Netball matches were held at the Sports Ministry grounds, Torrington Square, while rugby matches were held at Racecourse. Rugby matches will take place under the men's and women's category in addition to the under-16 inter-school category. The preliminary round of the tournament, consisting of 20 teams, will be held under 4 divisions. Sports Fiesta 2024, powered by Dialogue Axiata PLC, will end on the 18th August 2024. The MTV and BC Media Network is the electronic media sponsor of this sports festival, jointly organized by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs and the Ministry of Tourism.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1. For Newsfirst, I'm Martin Satyanesan.
I'm Mariam Ganavijaya. Good night and take care.
Good night.